Welcome to this podcast for Brighton School of Business and Management students who are studying for the HNC and HND Level 4 and 5 courses. Before I go on to the assignments, I just wanted to summarise the outcomes of this unit. At the end of the 4 sections, students should be able to first of all collect data, then understand how to analyse it, how to present it, and finally how to make informed decisions based on the data. On to section 1. First of all, you're being asked to create a research plan. This really needs to be set out in a clear, logical way like any other business plan. You need to clearly identify which business problem you are investigating. You need to define a clear set of objectives for your research, and as identified in bullet point 2, you need to explain your methodology and define who will make up the sampling frame. And you also need to include a rationale to support your methodology. It would also be very useful to include the rationale behind your questionnaire design, explain why you have included certain questions and why you may have excluded others. There are a couple of points to keep in mind. The plan is to cover the collection of secondary as well as primary data, so you ought to include a methodology for secondary data collection. The question emphasises the use of a questionnaire to collect data, but don't forget to think about other forms of primary research, like perhaps group discussions or Delphi panels that might be relevant to the business problem you are researching. And think as well about how your questionnaire will be used. Is it going to be an online or postal survey, or is it for a face-to-face or telephone interview where the researcher may have more chance to explain the questions that are being asked? Section 2 is all about analysing data. So in order to do this, you need to collect some data to analyse. There are plenty of data sources on the web. One you might find useful is the Economics Network website. If you go to www.economicsnetwork.ac.uk/links/data_free, you'll see a list of a fairly comprehensive list there of data sources, organisations like the National Statistical Office, the Bank of England Statistical Database and the World Trade Organization. You could also make reference in your answer to the fact that most of the points you're asked to cover in section 2 relate to quantitative analysis of data, but there are several qualitative research techniques that are useful in a business context that require a different sort of analysis and interpretation of the data. On to section 3 and the presentation of the information you have analysed in section 2. The first 2 bullet points are about producing the information you need, and the second 2 are about presenting it in a clear and compelling way. The key words in the first 2 bullet points are conclusions, which you need to support with some graphs, and forecasts, which you will have derived from the trends that you have identified in the data. Keep in mind with your presentation and with your report in bullet points 3 and 4 that this type of information is likely to be used by people who don't have the first-hand knowledge of the research that you have, so they need to be complete in the sense that they need to provide enough information for people to understand first of all the subject you're researching and to understand why you are making the conclusions that you have arrived at. PowerPoint and some similar software packages have a presentation format which allows you to present slides and speaker's notes together, which is a format I think worth considering when addressing bullet point 3. And if you do use this format, remember that speaker's notes usually are notes, just an aid to the speaker and not intended to be a script that the presenter will be reading word for word. Finally, on to section 4. You might want to think here about the different ways software-generated information can help in decision making. This might cover issues like the processing of large amounts of data very quickly, the ability to perform different types of analysis that would be very time-consuming to do manually, and also the ease with which software-generated information can be presented in the form of charts, graphs, diagrams and tables. And notice on bullet point 1 that you are being asked specifically to explain how you would use different tools, so your assignment answer needs to cover more than just a summary of the different processing tools that are available. If you require any further clarification or assistance with this assignment, then please contact your tutor.